Greetings from Change, a learning center for personal and organizational change management. This is a part of our COM program. As you may be aware, the acronym COM stands for Creating Awareness for Life Mastery. This chapter on discovering our true identity comes to you in four parts, including this first part of introducing this chapter. Deep within me, I've been hearing a voice, not today or yesterday, but for years, ever since I started recognizing my spiritual dimension, urging me to share my spiritual experience with the rest of the world. Our Institute Change, a learning center for personal and organizational change management, and our spiritual program called Calm are the results of this inner urge in me. What I wish to share with you is an empowering awareness of the connection between the invisible spiritual forces and human behavior and the visible physical results in human life. My awareness of how invisible spiritual forces within control my behavior, that is, thoughts, words, and deeds, which in turn manifest my life, either abundance or scarcity of prosperities, and why, irrespective of the physical prosperities in my life, I experience a sense of unhappiness and dissatisfaction in my life. To simply put it, how our life physically manifests, why we remain unhappy, and how we can bring about changes within so that our behavior results in prosperity as well as inner peace. This voice, I know, is not just for me alone, but is relevant almost to the entire human race who, thanks to their behavior pattern, are unable to experience inner fulfillment, happiness, and satisfaction and peace, irrespective of social, professional, wealth, and education status, and name, fame, and power. So, I am committed to sharing with you my experiential spiritual awareness of cause and effects of human behavior and how we can choose our behavior in pursuit of our desires, both physical aspects as well as inner emotions. Scientists and spiritual leaders world over have abundantly revealed their discoveries that it is the invisible spiritual dimension of human life which create visible physical results in our life. In other words, the invisible spiritual forces within control our behavior and ultimately manifest our life in the form of our education, profession, income, wealth, health, and various forms of material pleasures we enjoy, and the quality of our relationship and our name and fame. The reason why still vast majority of us are ignorant of our spiritual dimension is that it's not a part of our public system of education. We spend 20 years to obtain our masters in any field of material science. This is the reason why we are focused on material aspects of our life and not our spiritual dimension. Do we spend any time to learn our deeper spiritual dimension, which is the one that molds our behavior, which ultimately manifests our physical life? Even the human psychology at our undergraduate and postgraduate program is based on the limited Western understanding, while the Eastern philosophy dwells deep into it, but not being part of the public education system. Being spiritual by nature, how can we serve the purpose of human form of life, and how can we complete our life in our ignorance of our spiritual dimension? If we are ignorant of our spiritual dimension, it means that we are ignorant of how life occurs to us and that we are indifferent to our life, and therefore our life can be full of shocks and surprises. That's precisely how our life is today. So, the situation of being unhappy dissatisfied, and stressed within is our own creation. Then what's the point of being unhappy about our life without being aware of why we do what we do and how what we do results in certain things about which we are unhappy? Only by recognizing how the invisible spiritual forces within control our behavior, which ultimately manifest physical aspects of our life as well as the inner emotions, we can bring about changes necessary in our behavior corresponding to our desired material prosperities and inner satisfaction and happiness. The inner voice I have been hearing is essentially that of my own voice, the voice of my true self, craving for my attention, saying it's not happy with the life it is exposed to. That is, the life the true my true self is exposed to. This is the reason why we feel unhappy within. We need to recognize who is the true self. Is the true self different from me? If I say my true self is expressing its unhappiness with the life exposed to, then who exposes such a life to the true self? Is it me who is exposing such a life to my true self? If so, who is me? If we discover the true answers to these questions, there would be unimaginable changes in our behavior, assuring lasting inner happiness, satisfaction, and peace. You know, the fish does not understand that it lives in water. Same way, we human beings do not recognize that we live in the ocean of invisible energy. It is the invisible energy both within and outside which create our life. In our ignorance of this truth, we behave in a way which attracts only momentary physical material pleasures and not lasting inner satisfaction, happiness, and peace. We are constantly being proud of claiming the ownership of various physical things in utter ignorance of the truth that no one, however high or low one may be, owns anything physical in the world. On the contrary, if we do not find our true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being, that is our true self, and the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it, are beggars even if we have great material wealth. We say, my name is, I am a postgraduate, I am an uneducated, I am an engineer, I am a doctor, I am a senior officer, I am an advocate, I am the president of the nation, I am owning a global business, I have 100 acres of land, this is my car, that palace is mine, I am a poor man, my income is very little, I do not own my house, he is my son, daughter, father, mother, wife, etc., etc. Unless we recognize who this I, me, mine, we would continue to be ignorant of how life creates and would continue to behave the way we behave and experience unhappiness within. But the moment you discover and realize who you truly are and your true nature and how life gets created for you, you would recognize all that you claim as yours, saying I, me, mine, are absolutely meaningless. Once you know how life gets created for you, you would then recognize the truth that our inner sense of happiness, fulfillment, and peace is nothing to do with the level of our enjoyment of physical materials and pleasures. With this understanding, you would bring about a sea change in your behavior and create lasting experience of happiness and fulfillment and peace within, irrespective of your social, wealth, educational status, your name, fame, and power. In your ignorance of your true self, your behavior is influenced by your primordial emotion of fear, and you remain engaged in the competitive accumulation of physical material abundance. Both your search for and claim of these material abundance and the material pleasures and sorrows is totally false, because neither with the material pleasures you are happy, I mean your true self, nor with the abundance of such material pleasures you are unhappy, I mean your true self. Same way, neither any injury to your body nor any inner negative emotions are your creations. They do not belong to you. In your ignorance of your true self, you are making a false claim for these. Neither you know who you truly are, and nor the claims you make are earned or created by you. Nor do you need any of these materials and material pleasures. What you claim yours is not consistent with your true nature, and these are not true your true yearning. But in your ignorance of your true self, you wrongly assume that these are your yearning, and hence you are suffering from the inner emotions associated with your sense of material prosperities. Hence, your inner emotions are the results of your behavior, and not consciously but being unconscious of your true self. The global macro scenario amplifies how human behavior from the state of unconsciousness of true self is inconsistent with the true nature of human being, leading to the loss of happiness and peace across the planet. This holds good to powerful and powerless, the head of the state or an ordinary citizen, resource rich or resource poor, highly qualified or illiterate. Look at the growing widespread unrest across the global population is becoming a threat to global peace. Democracy, peace, well being are under constant threat in many parts. People are suffering from misguided as well as systematic and orchestrated terrorism in the name of religion, nationality, physical boundary, language, and ethnicity. Large scale accumulation of nuclear arsenals for suspected destructive purposes threatening the global peace. Discrimination in the name of color, race, and creed, and the resultant unending conflict. Exploitation of underdeveloped and developing nations thanks to the international politics, politics of alignment, and trade imbalances. Criminalization of democratic processes in the name of democracy. Criminalization of governance in the name of democracy. Incapability, arrogance, corruption at all levels, non performance of government leading to insurmountable suffering and misery thanks to supply demand gaps in food health, education, income, and employment security, public health disorder, rising prices of essential commodities, indifferent and callous attitude of government functionary towards grieving public, and widespread law and order problems and law enforcing agencies' partisan attitude against public cause and in favor of ruling class. Exploitation of resource poor through populist programs on the one hand, and denial of their social, economic, and political rights on the other. Widespread corruption and nepotism in the name of democratic governance. Although taxes are ever rising, there is hardly any development in key public sectors like agriculture, health, education, employment, and power sector. There is complete mismatch between the budget and the ground level needs, and between the claims of expenditure and the ground level impact. Thanks to the non existence of accountability and transparency mechanism, people who question are suppressed through iron hands of government. Even maintenance of ongoing programs and public infrastructures receive setbacks. Very poor supply chain management leading to wastages and leakages. Overall, spending of most of the taxes is more visible in the political and administrative establishments than in the lives of people. Widespread imbalance between haves and have nots, indicated by billions of people going to bed hungry across the globe. Individual and family level sense of inner unhappiness, dissatisfaction, stressfulness, physical material limitations and scarcity caused by work pressure and ill-directed life path and life strategies and indifferent and callous attitude on the part of general population in the self-governance process. What a come down for the human race, especially in certain parts of the planet which were once the center of excellence for the human civilization and spiritual knowledge and practices. If human attitude continues to be the way it is now, only the law of entropy can change the course and bring in reorder in human life system. Such a precarious state of affairs in our life is the result of our collective behavior pattern, thanks to our collective unconsciousness of our true identities and the infinite power ever present within to serve the infinite purpose of human existence. Such a callous and indifferent attitude is the product of our belief of who we truly are, of our belief of who what our true sense of purpose is, of our belief of what we can do and what we cannot, of our belief of what we can achieve and what we cannot, and our belief of what we can have and experience and what we cannot. This holds good to resource rich and resource poor people, powerful and powerless people, educated and illiterate alike. If the scenario outlined is of any indication of seriousness, it is then high time that we human beings in our evolution process quickly move on from the current mind domination stage to the consciousness stage as a matter of urgency so that we could prevent our self destruction process. This situation of not being in happiness within holds good to almost the entire human race. Irrespective of socio-economic and political status, a global business magnate may be stressed out today for the profit of millions tomorrow, while the beggar in the street may be stressed out for yearning for tomorrow's meal. That's all the difference is about. A cabinet minister may be eyeing for the head of the state position, while a person in lowest political hierarchy may be vying for a local leadership position. An educated professional may be anxious for a higher position and compensation, while an uneducated laborer is anxious about his job the next day. Everyone is stressed in the accumulation process and gets stressed out more and more and lose inner happiness and peace every day. Images of human civilization from the Stone Age to the current modern era could develop in us a mixed sense, a sense of both appreciation for and concern over the mind boggling scientific discoveries during the past few centuries. The scientific discoveries, on the one hand, have unimaginably reduced the human physical suffering as intended. On the other, the same scientific discoveries, if misused, as already demonstrated, poses a great threat of human extinction. And despite enjoyment of the physical material pleasures, thanks to the scientific discoveries, people are unhappy within. Despite the physical hardship and suffering experienced by our ancestors, they were more happier than us now in the modern age, while all the material facilities and pleasures. We are highly comfortable with abundance of material pleasures, thanks to the scientific discoveries during the last few centuries. But we are not experiencing happiness within. we are experiencing a sense of discontent and longing for one thing or the other at any given time, and our life has become full of stress. There is only one solution which can totally reverse the current threatening scenario across the planet, leading to a global environment where everyone is able to live a life of abundance with inner happiness, fulfillment, and peace, as well as physical material prosperities. And this one solution is moving away from our mind dominated life process to mind enlightened and controlled life process. This means disengaging ourselves from our mind and being true being and limiting the use of the wonderful machine called mind only to serve the intended purpose of human evolution and existence. To understand and appreciate this one solution, paying close attention to all parts of this chapter is critical. In the process of recognizing this one and only solution, we need to go through a sequential learning process to cement our awareness. Our sequence of learning would be part 1, part 2. This part would deal with why everyone, however high or low, may be irrespective of social education, wealth, status, and fame and power, behave the way they behave and attract unhappiness and dissatisfaction, discontent and longing within, despite their material enjoyment. This is the part which will enlighten how you are functioning in three different planes simultaneously, that is, body, your false self, and your true self, which is the fundamental cause of confusion as to who you are and who you are not, and how you remain unhappy and dissatisfied within, irrespective of the level of your material abundance. This is where we would discover answers to the question of who you truly are. Who is that I, me, mine? How life gets created for you. The next part 3, will deal with the only solution for everyone to remain happy, fulfilled, and peaceful within. This part will get into the details of your true identity and how this one solution can change your life. Part 3, how, when this one solution is religiously implemented, the pupil behavior would be contrast to the behavior discussed in part 2 and result in not only outer material abundance but more importantly inner happiness, fulfillment, and peace. Let us meet and learn together in the upcoming 3 parts of this chapter called Discovering Your True Identity. Thank you. Wishing you a life of abundance.